Teachers, what's the most depressing thing your kids have said? Viewers Edition. Nothing like reading stories from our awesome comment section, even if the prompt does have depressing in the title. I'm going to content warning you all right now. We're going to have some stories dealing with trauma, mental illness, and self-destructive thoughts up to and including thoughts of taking one's own life. It isn't easy, but I'm here to support those of you who are willing to share. I hope your stories can help some others going through similar tough times. Let's get into it. Story 1. I'm the kid that had a teacher who had a great teacher but broke his heart. I had trouble as a teen, lots of stuff I could go into, but most of it boils down to identity and familial issues. One day I was just so sad I didn't have the energy to put on my usual happy mask that I had. I was known as the kid that laughed at literally anything. I smiled and cracked jokes even when I was dying inside. When I just straight up couldn't put the mask on because it was just too much effort, I was brought outside to the hall and asked what was up. I told them that I wasn't sure I was going to come to school next week. I was planning on killing myself because at the time my family was always fighting, I had no friends, I felt like I was annoying to everyone even when all I said was hello, and the only living thing I cared about at the time had died a week prior, my dog, who I got when I was 5. When I told him all that, he asked if I wanted a hug, and I broke down crying like a dam had broken. I still feel bad for him because a week later I attempted, but not completed, self-termination. When I woke up in the hospital from blood loss and lacerations on my arm, it was then I actually felt like I let him down worse than I let anyone else because I promised him I'd keep going and make something of myself. Instead, I was sitting in a hospital bed barely a week later. Mr. T was a fantastic science teacher, and I still credit him today as to why I'm an endocrinology researcher. Biology is awesome, and I wish I could tell him that, but I don't have his contact information, and the school he worked at closed 3 years after I graduated. I was only 14 at the time, but I remember how he treated me. Story 2. Not a teacher, but a student. I knew another student who was not very well. Her parents would often hit her, and she would come to school with bruises. Soon she developed ED, and I tried to help her. She started talking about how if she was gone, nobody would care or notice except me. It was obvious that the teachers didn't like her because she would often sleep in class due to low energy. To make things worse, she had ADHD and her grades were dropping miserably. Most of the students were mean to her and bullied her most of the time. One time she came into class telling me that she would say goodbye today. At first I didn't know what that meant, but as I thought about it, I realized. Quickly I told the teacher and the counselor. They instantly called her into the counselor's office. Today she is now well, and we still keep in touch. Story 3. Not a teacher, but this happened to my little sister. It was around the holidays and our grandma was coming to visit. My sister wanted to make her a drawing and said she was going to work on it at school. That day she came home crying. The kids in her class took her drawing from her hands, looked at it, and laughed. They ripped it and said, "Don't cry, I'm just showing you how much you suck at art and you won't be able to accomplish anything in life." She was also constantly bullied by her class. But what makes my heart hurt the most is that she's been told to unalive herself more than 7 times. By the way, this happened when she was 8. Luckily, she's okay now and her art skills have improved and she finally has friends. I'm just so mad at how heartless people can be. Story 4. I'm not a teacher, I'm just a student, but I can say that there are times when I broke down in front of them or just in the classroom. This one time, despite doing all of my work, I got lunch detention even though I shouldn't have gotten it. Normally I don't mind, but last time I was in lunch detention, someone took a photo of me and made fun of the way I eat. They got in trouble, but I was still anxious after that. So when the teacher said I had to stay in, I was mad, but also really sad at the same time. I could barely focus on studying because I was crying. The teacher asked if I wanted to eat and I said no, I just wanted to get it over with. I finally managed my feelings when I decided to go to the bathroom to wash my face a bit. I noticed the teacher who originally assigned it to me and they said, "So, did you do it?" And I just couldn't stop myself from crying right in front of them. They said, okay, and walked away. Another time was when I had a 30-minute detention, so when it was 3:30 p.m., I asked to leave because it was 30 minutes. But because the teacher was never informed of the new rules of detention, she said that she never heard of it, so I had to stay another 30 minutes. I tried to protest, but she kind of scares me, so I just stopped myself and did some reading homework. I was really upset because my mom was waiting outside for me and she hasn't been feeling well for the past 3 years, and I don't want her to wait another 30 minutes. So for the next half hour I was there, I just sobbed silently. There's even this one time, but first, before I say anything, this has to do with the cheese touch. If you don't know what it is, it's basically like a tag, but I think it's just a tactic to get away from someone. Basically, if people are playing, someone who has it would touch someone, and they would touch someone else. It doesn't matter if they're playing or not, apparently. Yeah, however, if your fingers are crossed, you're safe. So when my friend told me about it, I was really anxious, so I kept my fingers crossed. Even though I wasn't playing the game, I wanted to make sure nobody touched me. Then this kid, who I don't get along with that well, but don't hate at the same time, touched my shoulder, and I got goosebumps all over. Then my friend said, "That's not fair. She had her fingers crossed, and she didn't even want to play." But the kid didn't listen. I wasn't crying, but I was still disgusted and upset at the situation. I don't like it when people randomly touch me, especially on my shoulder or literally anywhere. Even though the teacher told them to stop, they didn't. One time, the superintendent's daughter complimented my friend for some drawing and then went up to me, and instead of saying something to me like she did with my friend, she touched my shoulder and ran away. I actually was so tired of this. I broke down and I was like, I don't want to play. Why don't they see that? I get bullied a lot in school. The other students would make fun of the way I eat, the way I sit, the way I talk, the way I answer questions, the way I do workouts, the way I play games, the way I live my own life. There are multiple times that I doubted that I could do anything in the future, that I'm too ugly for people to like me, and that I'm too dumb to get anywhere in life. There's this one time I tried to kill myself. My whole school is sexist. The students, really, they prioritize the boys more than the girl, to the point where there's a girls versus boys thing when playing games. Other than school, there's a lot of bad stuff I've been through. Toxic relationships and family problems, a whole lot of them. I took this character quiz and it asked what types of problems I have, for example, social anxiety, abandonment issues, etc. And you know what? I clicked every option there was. There were only 6 options. Other than the I never experienced this option. My sisters think I'm ugly and stupid, well, most of them. Some think I need to get a life, and my only brother keeps staring at me and it makes me so uncomfortable. I actually wrote this essay with a bunch of swear words about my family, mainly my brother. CPS has been called, but because we seem normal, nothing happened really, though they came for months. And after that, my mom was so anxious about everything we did and things that we'd do wrong, she'd blame us for the reason why CPS came. For my mom, everything is transactional. My older sister got in a fight with her, and all mom would say is how much she bought for her, and that she is so nice for buying all of that. My siblings always blame me and never listen to me either. My parents always take the sibling side rather than mine, and I really just don't see why. I talk to my teachers a lot after classes, but only academic stuff. Like in Spanish, I would say, blah, blah, I'm learning this in French, or something like that, something that relates to the class. I was a really good student who did nothing wrong back when I was little, and in 4th grade it all flopped. Maybe it was because the work got harder, maybe it was the teacher, or COVID. In fact, my family is most positive that I had COVID in 4th grade because I was absent for 2 to 3 weeks and was super sick with all of the symptoms of COVID. However, COVID wasn't really known back then. That was the year it started getting known, though. In fact, it was only 3 months after I was healthy again that quarantine hit. I guess some could say I have issues, but I don't know. Sorry I wrote a lot, I just had a lot to say. If anyone read this far, congrats to you, you know my life now. Well, it looks like I know a bit more about you now, and thanks for sharing. I'm not going to lie, that is tough, and while I dealt with a few similar things in school, I can't pretend to know exactly how you feel or what you've dealt with. I think therapy could be a lot of help, but I also understand how that might not be attainable in your situation. I'll just share this. Find the people who lift you up, embrace your corner of the world, and learn that bullies and jerks are folks with their own problems, and frankly, their opinions shouldn't mean much to you if you don't like them. It isn't always easy, and honestly, some days are friggin' rough, seriously. But school is also such a terrible indicator of what your life could be like. My life as an adult is completely different. I have so much more control over the people I am around. I've grown into my passions and been able to fully embrace myself. It's not an easy road to travel, but the destination has been more than worth it. I'm sorry that you are dealing with walking a much harder path than many other kids have to walk. That sucks. It isn't fair, but keep on walking it, and one day you'll say that you conquered it. Story 5. In high school, my math teacher called me to the counseling room and asked me why I was sad and didn't smile more often. I just broke down crying and told him that it's nice of him to notice that because as a kid, I noticed people never notice my struggles, so I never care about me. Him giving me the attention and emotional support that day gave me the strength to push forward in life. I just wish he was my real dad. Story 6. The saddest thing I've heard from a student was from one with ADHD. She had run away from her house but was found and escorted back home. The day after that incident, her mother walked into her room and tried to get her to go up to school, but she didn't pressure her too much to do so. Then she found a paper with a bunch of words on it and she sent these to her mental support teacher. When she got the photo, she teared up. The words written were things like, "It's not that hard, just get through the day, people are having a worse day than you, you're just trying to get attention, why do you cry all the time, do you honestly think anyone cares about those stupid things, it's okay, no big deal, that's silly, you obviously chose to not go to social events and prefer to stay in bed and do nothing with your life, you're the most dramatic person I've ever met." Her mother asked her if other people said these things to her or if she told them to herself. She nodded and said both. Oh, that poor girl. It is hard enough to deal with stuff like that as a teenager, but also with ADHD, that is just a recipe for overwhelming anxiety or depression. I like that the mom didn't force her to go to school that day and seemed understanding. I think that is an incredibly important thing for parents to learn because it allows kids to trust you and feel like they can open up more. Hope things got better for her. Story 7. In middle school, I had a homeroom class where the teacher told us to play games and answer questions, like a little break from school. When it was my turn to answer, why is mental health important, I answered, I need my mental health to be good so I could stop myself from killing myself. The whole class looked at me shocked. The teacher did too. She even asked if I was okay. I said yes because I didn't want to vent in front of my whole class. I've said it plenty on this channel, but folks, if you are having thoughts like that, please tell someone you trust, be it a parent, a teacher, a friend, someone. Please, it isn't a burden on them, I promise. Story 8. My old German teacher was honestly super great, so basically I was going through hell in high school. Personality disorders, major trauma, so much I can't even begin to say. I constantly have self-harm marks hidden under my clothes, as well as my ED being so bad, I was incredibly thin. I was extremely asocial and could barely speak. I have selective/situational mutism, and so I'd struggle to speak. Nobody knew anything. I'd not do my work a lot, miss a lot of school, and especially because of NPD, I'd be too worried about my being perfect to turn it in. I almost failed a lot. My German teacher was always nice. He'd assign me a group, he'd let me present projects before or after school, he was very kind while he had me make up time, school rule, and a lot more. I never opened up to him, never actually told him or anyone anything, but just his kindness and his praise and how he helped me was very nice. I was good at picking up on German and learning the language, and he'd regularly remind me of how good I could be. He would praise me for my work and even remind me that even if the grade wasn't perfect, some grade is better than none. I'd still turn in work late, I'd forget a lot, ADHD and general brain fog, but I still managed to average C's and B's in that class. I just remember him very fondly because not only was he supportive, encouraging, and nice even if I was silent or awkward or beating myself up mentally for being a burden, he always felt like the one I'd probably open up to. I can't even open up to my friends and my girlfriend I have now. It's not something I can easily do. And I don't like the idea of horrifying others with what is in my mind every day. But he was a teacher that I always thought of fondly and felt better around. A lot of kids didn't like him, but I did. He was goofy and fun and showed us a lot about German culture, but he was also very kind and patient even when I struggled to speak, stuttered, or didn't do my work much at all. Even when I was clearly nervous, he'd remind me how I was good with learning German, one of the best in the class, and that I was doing well. I literally have it so ingrained in me that a single small mistake is something worth wanting to die or hurt myself over, so having encouragement like that is a lifesaver. I doubt he knows how much he means to me since, again, I don't open up. Hell, basically nobody knew I was abused at home until I told my friend when I was 18, and they just went, "That is literally abuse." And that moment literally made me cry and go into denial mode because literally nobody believed me at all, and to hear someone finally validate it didn't feel real. And even then, it's only my friends and my girlfriend that know. I had a history teacher senior year as well that was super cool, and he helped a lot of other students more than me. He had ADHD as well, and he'd been patient with a lot of the annoying popular kids that I never really liked. Even when they struggled, he'd encourage me. He was a good teacher and really tried to work with the students, and kept the class a bit on the easier side. He'd even provide print copies of the notes for people that couldn't keep up with note-taking. He was super nice and had worked with a lot of kids from different backgrounds. He wouldn't even work at my school until it became more diverse, since he preferred to work with people that aren't as privileged as others. Honestly, an awesome dude. It really is amazing how a teacher who puts in that little bit of extra effort to understand a student can make such a difference in their life. It sounds like this German teacher was die Spitze, and even if you didn't open up intentionally, I'm sure he felt a connection there. I'm just some guy on the internet, so I won't tell you what to do or how to live your life. I would just encourage you to look into opening up more. I struggled with keeping things in a lot earlier in my life, and there were times when that strained relationships. Now I'm a lot more open, even if I sometimes have to force myself, and it has made a really positive difference in my life. Again, you do you, but that might be something to consider. Story 9. In 7th grade, one of my friends was just sitting, somewhat crying, and the teacher said, "Why are you so sad, boy? Did you break up with your girlfriend?" and laughed. I saw tears come down his face, and he just said, "Have you had your mom kill herself?" The whole class was silent. The teacher mumbled something out of shock and said, "Let's not talk about this, I guess," with a shaking voice. He went to seek mental help that year. Story 10. I had that one guy in school, not any different than the others. One day our teacher was upset with him for having so much bad grades, and at the end of her scolding, she asked, "What would your mother think?" He answered with a sad voice, "But I don't have a mom." The room went silent. Teacher brought him out of the classroom for the talk, and when she came back, she said that his mother died when he was little, and his dad always gets repaired, so he doesn't have a proper mother figure. It was sad because we were all 9 to 10 years old at the time. I don't know how he's doing today. He went to Germany because of his dad's new job a few years ago. Hope he's fine. Story 11. I'm a student and I have this teacher. I won't say her name because of her privacy. I was in class and I was really unfocused. Just so you know, I suffer from ADHD. After class, I broke down in tears. My teacher came up to me and asked what was wrong. My voice was overflowing with jumbled up things I've experienced on that day. In particular, was one of the worst days of my life. 1 was that my snake died. 2, I couldn't keep up with assignments, so that left me with anxiety that I wasn't good enough. 3 was that 2 girls came in the locker room. It was empty because I was late. The 2 girls continued to take selfies in one of the mirrors in there, and I was in the background changing. They were going to post it to Snapchat, but they got caught, so that left anxiety. After venting to one of my friends, I realized I was late to one of the tutoring centers at my school, but by the time I got there, I was late and couldn't get in. So I called my mom to pick me up after me, and my mom chatted my dad came to pick me up. When I got in the car, he told me that I was selfish, stupid, and that I would never make it through school. Before and after that, I tried to commit self-termination 5 times, though I never did because of my little sister. I am fine now, but I'm thankful that I told the teacher. She explained it to my mom, and my father is still the usual. I'm sorry for everything you've been going through. Know that first off, you aren't dumb. ADHD means your brain is just working differently. Honestly, if you want to know a little more about it, I highly recommend the book Delivered from Distraction because it can really help you get a little more of a handle on it. It won't have all the answers, but it helps put a lot of things into perspective. Trust me, ADHD can make life so much harder for you until you find your ways to handle and harness it. If your parents don't support you, know that I do. And I think you're amazing and can become even more amazing. That goes for the rest of you too. Your Uncle Facts is in your corner. Story 12. I'm a student, but once I was having a flashback to some bad trauma in class, and my science teacher called me into the hallway and helped me through the whole thing. I never said a word to her about what the flashback was, but she knew I was having a panic attack, and honestly, that just meant a lot that she was willing to help with the troublesome class she had. Thanks to her, I have found my love for science again. Let me end this by saying thanks to all the good teachers out there connecting with students and helping them, and also to all of you students out there struggling. You're valid people who deserve to be happy. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.